Hi everyone, welcome to our third Yoga of the Month interview, and this month we're talking to Karen and Emma. Now, Karen and Emma, I know you both from our level 3 class on a Wednesday night, Yoga on Tea, but perhaps you want to just introduce yourselves and just chat about how and when you started yoga.
Who wants to go first then? Me, okay. I started yoga probably in 2000 with Lillian Biggs. Now, she was one of the old school teachers. I think she was probably one of the first wave that went out to Pune, probably in the 70s, 80s, or I'm not sure, I have to check with, but Julie knows her. And she was brilliant, but she was also quite scary. You know how Julie comes round with the stick? Lillian didn't even have a stick. You just got to slap up the back of the legs.
Yeah, there's a lot that now seems quite old school and maybe quite old fashioned, but that I guess was part of the practice at that time. I mean, it's evolving all the time, isn't it? Iyengar Yoga, but
it is. If you watch the old videos from Mr. Iyengar and the way he did things, I think they very much just took that training as a thing and just moved it. It wasn't softened for the European market like it is now, I think.
So it sounds quite, she was quite a formidable teacher, but you stuck at it, or?
I think it was the ability to challenge myself, to discover my limits and to see if you could reach past them. Yoga's not supposed to be competitive, but I think you can be quite competitive with yourself. I know you probably are, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. My introduction to it was through Karen, really needing to have that in our life for physical reasons. And so going with you was kind of non-negotiable. But now I'll go by myself because I like it. But it
and she's better at a lot of things.
I'm not better at a lot of things. We're all better at different things.
There's
different, because different body types allow for that. And I didn't appreciate that until we'd gone. And you look around the room and somebody's on top of their head and you think, right, I want to be able to do that. And that's where the competitiveness comes in from me, because seeing somebody else do something, you go, well, that.
You want to know how to do it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's that interest that sparks you and makes you think, can I do that? Usually
I know. And what I find with the Iyengar Yoga, that it's exactly like that you see other people doing poses and you're like, God, wow, how are they doing that? But you know there is a process going on with them, and this is why I find it so accessible, is that it's not about being flexible. It's not about being the most flexible person in the room, because they're never the ones that are going to be in the pose in the right way and be able to hold it and have the stability. So you know that these people, you're like, I will be able to do that if I just stick at it.
Yoga is for people who can't touch the toes,
which I can now. So that's actually something that's come out of that. I've never been able to touch my toes, and after about 3 years, I can touch my toes, and I literally have never been able to touch my toes. I'd get about 4 inches away and couldn't do it, and it's tight hamstrings, and they are slowly moving, but not as quick as I would like, because there's certain things that I know I can do better if my hamstrings would let me, and it restricts me a bit, but you have to keep working to get there, and you can, because you get breakthroughs in different things, the way that your body is in the summer. Sometimes you can do things that you can't do in the winter time, because your body just doesn't want to do it, because it's tightened itself up because it's freezing.
Funny you should say that also, Emma. Gulnaz Dashti, iYoga Glasgow, did a workshop, and Gulnaz was teaching yesterday, Sunday morning. So I don't know, there'd be 40 of us from Glasgow and Edinburgh, all around Scotland, dialing in. And normally teachers are like, oh, right, you need this equipment, we're doing this sequence, and this, but she wasn't. She was, right, let's just have a look at you all. So we all did Adho Mukha Savasana, downward dog, and an Uttanasana, and she went, I can tell you're all in cold climates. I need to defrost you and just bit
Yeah.
length and stretch. It was a great class, but it was funny that the cold, like she said, I just need your joints are all so tight. We need to put some space into your joints. So what about favorite poses then? Have you both got what are your favorite poses, each of you? Emma, do you want to go first this time?
Okay. I enjoy balance and inversions kind of equally. I like the strength that's required for both of them, to build up to that, to be able to get there and stay there for 5 minutes. Like Julie will time us for 5 minutes and you're there below wanting to come down, but you know that if you stay another 20 seconds, you've made it 20 seconds more than last week, and that it pushes you on. And I prefer being upside down. I've always liked being upside down anyway. So more of the inversion stuff.
Yeah, where I tend to like forward bends and twists. Probably because not that I find them easier, but I find them less painful, let's put it that way. I think for certain things. You find things that you like doing. There's a moment, isn't there, in certain poses where everything stops and there is just you and your breath and that moment in time, and it all settles. And even if it's only just for the shortest period of time, there's a quietness to it, and I'm not sure really how to describe it other than that, where you get that moment where you think, now I know what she means, and you feel it right through your body, that sense that you are aligned with everything that's going on around you. It's a moment of almost peace, I think, is probably the best way of describing it.
Concentration is good because it takes me away from everything else during the day. You come in and you're still thinking about what we're going to eat tonight and what you did at work that day, but then Julie will very quickly get you focused on just doing the smallest things, and it makes you think about just even breathing in and breathing out. It shuts out everything else.
Yeah, it takes the focus inward.
Yeah, it shuts your brain down from everything that's stimulating you through the day, and for that period of time, it's
respite, isn't it, from your day?
Yeah, which I never thought I would have from that, but this last 12 months, it's been really obvious and really necessary, and I'm very grateful to both Julie and Marika for that.
Yeah, and I think there's probably just throughout lockdown, there's a lot of people feeling very grateful to have had yoga to help what we're all going through, definitely. Okay, favorite poses discussed. Least favorite poses?
Absolutely, I hate back bends. No matter how hard I try, it just doesn't quite get there.
Not strictly true. And it goes back to the temperature thing as well, because through the last summer, we both managed to do it. And it was our bodies, it was one of those days where we'd been outside all day and our bodies had absorbed all of the heat and went straight into a yoga class. Julie builds up, and I like guessing where she's building up to in a class as well. You see certain poses that she's got you doing as preparation for what she's really getting you to do at the end of the class. And I like guessing that as well. And it was Ustrasana, and we both did it, and we both did it well. And Julie commented on that after class as well, because she'd seen through Zoom that we were just like, wait a minute, you guys normally have props and you don't, you put a bolster on your feet because you can't reach your heels, and we both did it. And I think
it's probably the first and last time I've done it in the last decade.
Yeah, it shows the environmentals, all the variables that are there, they just all got ticked off that day and it worked.
They do. It isn't. I suppose it's nice when something happens like that, isn't it? And it's a sense of achievement. You can do it. I think it's when you go back to it and you think, I'm going to do this again. No, maybe I'm not.
You can't work out why.
No, it's not going to happen.
But I guess that's also part of the process, isn't it, about yoga practice? And my brother-in-law was saying, what is it with yoga? There's never any event, there's never any match, there's never any, it's just practice. There's nothing, you're not building up to anything. I said, no, it's practice for a reason. Like, you just go to kind of visit and see how you're feeling that day, and then do your practice, and then you come away, and every practice is different.
But that's life in general. Life isn't a match. You don't live your life to a purpose of an end point. You live your life on a day-to-day basis, and yoga's like that. It's not an end in itself. It's a process that takes, you go through your whole life with it. And I think it's not about doing it well. It becomes a part of your life, whether you take it up and then you drop it for a year or you drop it for 6 years. I think most people who do yoga come back to it, because you go away and you try other things and you actually realize that yoga isn't about a sport or an end game. You don't get a cup at the end of it. It's about life. And I think it helps you balance your life. And I think people do yoga for different reasons. I think for me personally, if you live with a pain condition, especially for people who live with a chronic pain condition, not something short term, not like a broken leg where there's a start and an end finish to it. But when you live with chronic pain, I think people who do that, they do one of two things. They either turn inward and everything becomes about their pain and they don't do anything, or they stop thinking about their bodies. They tend to shut it out. And I fall into that latter category. I'm very aware of that.
To disconnect the mind and body. Yeah.
Because the pain is always there. So I don't think about my brain. And very often when I get onto my mat, it is that moment in time where I am allowed to think about it, to acknowledge it, but also I'm allowed to do something with that pain. I'm allowed to work within the boundaries of it and not feel that it is a disability. I'm not sure if that's really a good way of describing it.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Karen. That really does. And then that actually you're kind of creating a safe space in which to explore the pain, because you can go towards it or you can back off it. Would you say? Or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are days where I know there are certain things I'm just not going to be able to do today because it hurts too much. And then there are days when I'm feeling better and I get to explore a little bit more and I do a little bit more. And sometimes you achieve a bit more, and that gives you that sense that this is not all that there is. Yeah. It helps the day. It really does help a lot. I don't know if that's just a very personal way of viewing it.
I don't think at all. I think if we all, again, the Gulnaz Dashti yesterday, she was talking about that and this space, the internal space that we're creating, and how, after the feeling after a great yoga practice or a great class is we feel really spacious inside. So I think what you're talking about there with dealing with a chronic pain condition is that you're creating more space to manage the pain.
Yes. Yeah. It also, it's quite nice because sometimes you wake up the next morning and, sometimes you wake up on Thursday morning and I sort of say, I feel like I've been beaten with a bit of 2x4, but it's a good ache, and it's a different, you remember that there are, your body aches because it's been well worked, and that's a different thing to deal with it. That's a satisfying ache, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Or it's a discovery of muscles you never knew you had.
Yeah.
Thanks to Julie.
Yeah, that Thursday morning feeling.
Some days you will do more, and then there are other days where 20 minutes in I'm like, right, that's it, I'm done. But it's learning to know what I've gotten out of that 20 minutes, because that 20 minutes will probably have made me feel as if I can cope more with the day.
That's been the one benefit of COVID, has been being able to do 2 classes because of the distances that we're far away from the studio. So we generally would go in an evening after work because we were in Dundee anyway. But to enable us to go to 2 classes a week has been brilliant. I know it's not been the easiest transition for Julie and Marika, but and they've done a great job of it, and that has to be something that we do have to acknowledge through this as well. It's they've brought themselves into people's homes, and they've provided people who might not be seeing other people that often, that ability to see people they know from the studio, and just have an hour where they can see friends.
And where you're interacting with other people as well, I think, is to have the studio space as well. I mean, when I was with Lillian, she taught out of, sort of church halls, and they were cold and drafty and generally quite fairly miserable spaces. So you'd go in and it'd be absolutely Baltic in there, and it'd take you half an hour to warm up before you did anything. But the studio is a wonderful space, and we're really, I remember not being a yoga teacher when I moved up here. I don't think there was one closer than Edinburgh. And you just can't get to Edinburgh for an hour and a half of yoga.
But you also didn't want to give up the standards and the attention to detail that Iyengar brings, rather than, you didn't want to go to something else just for the sake of going to a yoga class.
No,
it had to be Iyengar.
Taught with that level of detail is fantastic, because it teaches you to teach yourself. Because if you understand that level of detail, you've got a lot less chance of hurting yourself when you're on your mat on your own.
Good point. Yeah, I'd not thought of it that way, and no, I like that. It allows you to teach yourself. That's great. And I think just thinking back to increasing your practice, or going to 2 classes a week. If you do just once a week, you think, oh, that was great, really enjoyed that. But you don't really, the muscles don't remember, the body doesn't remember. But if you're like Monday and Thursday, there's a little bit still left by the next class. You remember what's happened, your body remembers what's happened from the previous class, and you can take that into the next class, whereas a week is too long.
Mm-hmm.
And then the connections start to accelerate. Just you're able to find the actions a little bit quicker, a little bit faster.
Yeah, definitely. You find that space within yourself quicker, don't you? So I think that when you do get onto your mat, it's precious. It is time when you are so totally focused on yourself that in the world in general, you don't get that time just to be yourself.
Right, ladies, I think we've covered quite a lot there. Yeah, I would say the underfloor heating at Yoga on Tay is a big benefit, isn't it, for the Shavasana at the end, especially. No, that's great. Thank you both very much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cut.
Okay.